Real women.
Real talk.
Real messy.
This is Messy Midlife.
Hey, ladies.
Hi.
It's not been that long, has it?
Just a lunch date away.
We're in the same outfits we were last time we talked. I mean, so here's the deal, right? We went out to lunch. We went out basically to celebrate that we finally did this, right? Finally, we got ourselves in the same place. We finally got our first episode recorded. And of course, we had like 10 episodes worth of things that we were talking about. And through that conversation, we were like, okay, we have to come back and record our next episode because there's this one central thing that we've talked about a lot, even before we decided to move forward. Like in the early conversations when we were like, okay, this is actually the right time and it's going to require vulnerability. We had to come back and talk about it.
Well, we were talking about it at lunch.
Yeah.
So,
And it very much ties into the danger that we see in the messy midlife. The thing that makes the midlife that much messier. It's when people shy away, when we shy away from vulnerability.
Yeah.
We end up going to an extreme that is not representative of the actual reality that we need to embrace in order to evolve and transform, which is what this period of our lives is really calling us to do.
Yeah.
well, to be truthful, right?
Yeah.
To just be like honest and truthful
With ourselves.
and transparent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just with ourselves, but with each other too, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, how many times can I tell myself the truth, but I don't want anybody else to see what I know is the truth,
Yeah.
right? Or what am I afraid is going to happen if somebody knows the truth?
Both. I mean, sometimes we don't even know, like
Mhm.
what came up at lunch.
Yeah.
It's not something that
Is that
am
something you feel
aware.
vulnerable enough
Yeah.
to talk about?
Absolutely. That's what we're here to do. Yeah.
I mean, I think what you just said too, it's like we were talking at lunch a lot about kids and how we relate to them and what sides of them we show and when they see our not so great sides too. But I also think that's super important. Like, I don't know if vulnerable is the right word with kids, but it's them seeing who we really are. And like,
Yeah.
they have struggles
Mhm.
and we have struggles. And
Mhm.
watching us navigate our struggles is also showing them how to and how not to when it comes up for them too.
Yeah. I mean, there's several things that came up that were like really touched on some pretty important vulnerable points that made us say, okay, we need to just, basically talk about the elephant in the room that like,
Yeah.
that's the place that we're coming from moving forward, in any and all of our conversations. There's a place of vulnerability. I mean, hopefully there's going to be more times that we're laughing than crying or like laughing and crying together, right?
At the same time.
But that setting the stage for ourselves and anybody who wishes to join us on this adventure, that vulnerability is what we expect from each other and what we're willing to offer to people who join us along the way.
And it's how we connect to each other
Yes.
and to other people in our lives. Right?
Truly, authentically, meaningfully.
Yeah.
Eliza mentioned in the first episode, I wonder how much I can receive, that a teacher had told you that. And it came up again in our conversation during lunch. And we looked at it from two different perspectives of the abundance that's available in the universe and in humanity and in our day-to-day lives and, being curious in that growth mindset place of being open to receiving. And, I'm curious about how much is already happening that I'm not noticing. I'm curious about how much is possible. And then the other side of that same coin, I'm curious how much I can tolerate to receive. And that was what our conversation was at lunch. That was very unexpected. Did not see that one coming. Plot twist. Thank you, Jen. So I guess we'll get into that.
Yeah.
I was really adamant about paying for our lunch because I wanted to contribute. It was important to me. And Jen had been incredibly generous and covered yesterday's meal when I had thought that I was going to cover yesterday's meal. So I very enthusiastically and with great
Vehement.
vigor made a statement in the middle of a conversation saying, I am going to pay for this meal. It is important to me. And then Jen pulled the rug out from under me
Did you actually say it was important to you?
You didn't.
I don't think you said it was
No, you
important
didn't.
to
You
you.
said, I am paying for
No
lunch.
argument.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Because if you had said that it was important to you,
I'm glad I didn't.
I would
because
have backed down.
I'm glad I didn't, because the way that the conversation, the turn in that conversation was so unexpected and so perfect and so us that it led to this incredibly deep and rich moment of transformation for me.
Yeah. So she makes this big show, got a megaphone and everything in the restaurant and said, I am paying.
Not an exaggeration.
I am
really
paying.
loud.
So she makes this declaration that she's paying. And I said, okay, if you really want to pay, that's fine. And you both have big expenses, unforced, unexpected expenses coming up in the near future or are currently actively dealing with them. And I don't. So I can cover this much easier right now than you can. And there will probably be a time in the future where that's not true for me. So if it's really important to you, you can pay. But if it's not, maybe set your ego aside. And I did
That
say
is
that.
literally a quote.
I
Yes.
said, maybe set your ego aside and just let me do this because it's not hard for me right now. And it's a lot harder for either of you in this moment to do this. And your jaw hit the
Pretty much.
table and share a little bit more about your
Yeah.
experience and the things that
Yeah.
you said.
Yeah, I appreciated the use of the ego. I think that was a big red flag for me. And it brought me back to your comment about, I wonder how much I can receive. And we got into this conversation about family dynamics and expectations in those family dynamics, specifically being told that you're selfish, that I had been told that I am selfish, or family members who have their own trauma around feeling taken advantage of, and how growing up in that environment triggered kind of an extreme, right? So here's such a great example of what we're wanting to discuss, of those fear-based states. Those states that feel unsafe to us are the ones that drive us into the black and white fixed mindset type of life or belief system. And Eliza, it resonated with you. You shared experiences that were very, very similar to mine, and how hard we have worked to compensate and be in that people pleasing / always having to prove that we're not trying to take advantage of anyone, that we are wanting to contribute equally, which always translates to way more and beyond what is actually equal. And so I would love for you to speak to that. I know there's a lot more that happened for me in that moment.
Well, I think it just brought up, how do I prove my worthiness?
Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
I think all of us
Yes.
have gone through that. I mean, everyone in the world has gone through that. But this feeling of having to prove that we're good enough, right? That's a big thing for me, is always having to prove that I'm good enough, that I'm smart enough, that I'm pretty enough, that I'm skinny enough. That was pretty much,
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, my whole life from age 5 to
10 years.
I mean, into my early 40s, I was still really caught in that, But so much of my own self-worth not being based on what I knew about myself,
Yeah.
but how other people perceived me, right? What I thought about myself was based on other people's thoughts and feelings about me. And I think that that's I do think money comes into it, because it's in whatever way we're trying to show, I can do this, I can take care of you, I can take the responsibility. And finances are a way of showing
It's the most
responsibility
tangible
too,
way,
right?
right? It's measurable.
You can put numbers
Yes,
to it.
exactly. It's quantifiable.
And so that's, I think, the thing that I've been really, in a way, forced to kind of face too, even before dealing with arthritis stuff and weight gain from that. But just starting to get more comfortable knowing that how I see myself as the most important thing, and finding my worth inside, and not from what a boyfriend or a husband or a parent or a patient or a business partner. I mean, the list can go
A
on
random
and on.
person on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be that deep.
Yeah.
It's that deep that it
can be triggered
that
by-
becomes so superficial.
Yeah.
And
Can become
and
triggered by
meaningless.
a
Any-
random person giving you a weird look as
Yeah.
you walk by.
Yep.
That's interesting, because I think it's different for different people.
Yeah.
That was not something that really ever worried me. It was the people that I knew and how they saw me.
Mhm.
The most intimate people towards me and their perception. If someone else that I didn't know, I
You
didn't really
started
care
in a
about,
healthier state then.
maybe.
I feel like there's a whole lot of people that the random glances from a stranger at the grocery store or somebody walking down the street, I feel like a lot of people are affected by that. I don't
Yeah.
know. What about you?
Yeah.
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 So you started in a healthier place. Good for you.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Like you already had some hierarchy that you understood, like these people matter and these people don't matter as much, and like their opinion does actually matter some because it's related to my safety.
Yeah.
Because that's
Well,
what
it
we
was
learned
so
when we're little.
personal,
I mean,
right?
technically,
Strangers
strangers
also
are related to safety. So there is some truth to that.
100%.
It's just, I think to your point, it is so much less likely, right? It's a reality, but it is less likely to affect the safety, especially of a child,
Yeah.
right? Whose parents and family of origin are everything.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and a stranger thinking something isn't the same as a parent saying, you look a certain way in that,
Mhm,
or
mhm.
you shouldn't wear that, or your grades should have been right, or like, it's just like the you're not enough, right?
Mhm.
That was so much more impactful having somebody that I knew and who I loved and cared about and whose opinion I valued, feeling like not enough to them versus somebody I didn't know.
So it's
Yeah.
really interesting because my experience was that anybody who was a family or friend who said something like that to me, I assumed that it was couched in love and it wasn't the whole truth. So anything somebody said to me on the street was more true because they didn't love me. So there's no way that they were doing anything to like protect me. And
Mhm.
so I almost put more value in that because I felt like it was the unfettered truth.
Mhm.
But only if it was negative. If it was positive, I didn't believe it
Yeah,
at all.
of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It brings us back to the conversation at lunch, which is in that moment of deep vulnerability for me, I felt really seen and appreciated. And I trusted that you knew that I'm here. I am here 100%. I am not anything other than here always. That is who I am. And it's so
Yes.
interesting because I know that about myself. I feel teary. But to see that you saw that, and of course I know that.
Yeah, but we have to be reminded of it. I think that's the beauty of friendships is like you remind each other of what we
Yeah.
each need to hear. So, I mean, that you guys saying that, like, you could wear sweats and look glamorous. Like,
She could.
She could.
Oh my God. It's maddening. It is
But I don't think
maddening
it's
and I
actually
love
that.
her so much. But this woman rolls out of bed ready to go.
Radiating glamour.
Yes. Like she is ready for the photo shoot.
Ridiculous.
Guys, so here's the thing. I tried to like use AI because we don't live in the like Karen wasn't able to be with us like to just get a picture taken. We had to get her flown out here. So I tried to use AI to put a picture of us together. Do you know what picture she sent? Aliza sent a picture of herself laying in bed, sick, and she looked radiant. I'm
I
like,
jokingly used that picture
and you looked radiant.
because Jen made me send her a picture one night. She said, you said, I'm going to need proof that you're laying in bed watching Bravo.
Yeah.
And I literally went click and sent it to you.
You know what? I want to post this picture somewhere so you guys can see. Like it is. I love you so much, and it is like a maddening, and I also love it about you, and I love it for you. And
Well, thank
yes.
you. But a point being,
We are distracted.
we don't see that. We don't see that about ourselves,
Right.
right? Like we don't see that about ourselves. I could list a million amazing things about both of you,
Mhm.
right? But you would never sit there and say,
Right.
maybe at this point, actually, I take that back. Maybe at this point in our lives, we
We're
would
getting
be
better
able to do
We're
that.
getting better.
Yeah.
But I think for many, many years, 10 years ago, for me, I wouldn't have been able
Yeah.
to do that.
And I think appearance is ironically particularly difficult.
Yeah.
You know, that was not easy for me in the restaurant. And
Mhm.
I'm 45 years old, and that's never happened to me before. Have similar circumstances happened? Yes, but I was never able to go that extra step into floundering into this place of ambiguity and discomfort and this messy, wait a minute, if I'm not behaving that way, blank. And for that moment of blankness, of
Oh, it's so
discomfort,
hard.
I got to experience being seen in such a meaningful and deep way that it will forever change me.
Yeah.
Well, now we have it on recording too. So
Right now, accountability.
Well, you're going to remember it next time something comes up like that, and you can pause for a minute, right?
Yes.
Why am I insisting on this? It's not that it's not important to you. It was important to you, but it's like the
Right.
why.
Right.
Why was it important to you? What were you trying to prove or show or feel or validate
Which is
in that moment?
yes, and it was still important to me, and it is still important to me. And in that moment, what felt most important of all was for me to be able to say, okay.
yeah. You know, this really just makes me think of something I shared with you guys the other day, like a thought that I had leaving Pilates class, right? About how I have recently started trying to be a better doctor to myself and trying to listen to what my body and my labs are telling me. And I was exercising in a way that was not good for me and was probably making things worse. I was exercising too much. I wasn't sleeping enough. I was trying to make my body like basically behave as if it was different than it was. And I realized that through my physical therapist recognizing I just needed a wedge underneath my back and shoulders to help elevate me just a little bit so that I could engage my abs that are still, I have diastasis recti from pregnancy still. So they just don't connect the way that they should. But if I get a little bit of support, they do, and I can engage them correctly. And by doing a little bit less and listening to my body and getting the support I need, I have gotten significantly stronger, like noticeably significantly stronger by doing less, but better and accepting the support when I need it.
Yeah.
And sometimes like that's like a big thing that we just need to remember is that allowing support to happen and not always being the one to do do the extra, be the one who doesn't need anything, to be the one who gives all of the things.
It's isolating.
It's killing us.
Yeah.
It's not just isolating. It is killing us. In that instance, when it relates to Pilates, it was destroying my body. I was trying to work with my body, but I was hurting it more than I was helping it. And like, how many ways are we hurting ourselves more than helping ourselves because we're not allowing ourselves to accept support when we need it and to not always have to push ourselves and to be the better, the stronger, the more.
Yeah. How damaging it is for us to not release the old narratives that literally kept us alive as children and are now so irrelevant. And if they're not irrelevant, they need to be irrelevant.
Well,
and how
there's
that
the whole
keeps us.
story behind. I mean, there's the whole story behind it, like
Mm-hmm.
of why we feel that we have to do those things and why we push through. I mean, on every level. I've watched for a really like one of my best friends like destroy her body because she was gonna like physical therapy her way out of being in pain, and all it did was make things a million times worse rather than saying, okay, I need to stop and reset and stop pushing myself to do this, right? But why do we feel like it can't ever end? I mean, I feel like we're all getting there. This is like this is part of us getting there, but I think for so long, I think especially in our 30s, it was this like, you can't stop. You have to be doing 100% at all times. If you don't, you're weak, you're lazy, you're not smart.
I think this
Right.
is particularly relevant for women.
Women in healing professions,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
women, period.
Women,
But yes,
period.
yeah.
And I mean,
Any type of service
sport,
profession.
but even sports and,
Yeah, that's
women who are corporate leaders. And I work with so many women like this, and it is just not the same story, but the same story over
It's
and
the same
over.
underlying
Yes.
current of pushing it.
We are literally killing ourselves to prove our worth.
the way to save ourselves is to be vulnerable.
Brene Brown says vulnerability is not a weakness. That myth is a profoundly dangerous belief.
Yeah. I remember the first time that I had to take the leap to be a level of vulnerable that felt like it was potentially going to be catastrophic. And it was shortly after I had graduated from naturopathic medical school and was practicing and I have a chronic health condition. I have, as I shared in the last episode, and we now realize that I had PANS as a child, but it was not diagnosed as that because I'm too old for PANS to have ever been recognized. So I was diagnosed with a mental health condition. And the whole reason I went to naturopathic medical school is because the solution didn't exist to help me and my family, who also had some mental health challenges, without also bringing us harm. And I was so afraid of it being found out. I was so afraid that even though I was helping people who suffered similarly to me, I was so afraid that they would find out and then everybody would think that I was crazy or whatever. And once I finally got to the place that I was brave enough to be vulnerable and to say in a, very mildly public way, but like be willing to say out loud, I've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and this is what I have experienced and this is where I'm at now. And, this is the things that have helped me and this is how I understand what you are experiencing. And it's still hard to say that. It is still hard to say that, right? But it was actually the most important thing I think I've done in a very long time. It actually did the opposite of what I was afraid it was going to do. I thought that it was going to make people judge me and think that I was crazy and that I couldn't possibly help them because two crazies working together, which one person did actually say. And like, that was okay. Thank you for letting me know that we don't belong together. Right. And it was not the patient. It was his wife that said that. But it actually, they felt seen by me in a way, and that my vulnerability made them feel less alone and it made them feel less judged. It made them feel less scared. And it then led to me being able to understand the reality of what my brother and I both dealt with, because I learned more about PANS and PANDAS because people saw that I saw myself in their children and I understood their children in a way that nobody else seemed to. And so vulnerability has been one of the most important things that I've ever done in my life. And it's still something I'm working on a lot. I still have feelings about sharing what I just shared. And like, there's part of me that's also like, is there any chance that you weren't letting Karen be vulnerable and you had to come in and like, it was your own lack of willingness to be vulnerable with that whole exchange we had at the restaurant? So, I'm at least thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and I go to like logic brain. And I think it was a little bit of wise mind too. Like, not just like rational mind that brought me to that place, but it was like a logical argument for something that might, if I'm like really critical of myself, it might have some foundation in my own vulnerability.
What I loved about what you said in that moment was we are in this and there's there's ebbing and flowing and there's going to be many shifts in the tide. And so I think part of embracing the security of vulnerability is being able to take a step back and to see a bigger picture. One of the things that I love to do when I'm too anxious about microscopic detail is go macro. Right. And to look at life or whatever from that perspective, or vice versa, right? If the macro is super distressing, then go micro and find the things there that are, really gratitude filled.
It can be really hard to do that in the moment, though. And I think that's what experiences, like your everyday experiences like today, right? It's like training us and giving us that practice to be able to do that, right?
Yeah. And that's what I think is the magic about what we share and why I think we all, to some degree, and maybe certainly from different perspectives, because we're different people, understand that there's something really special here. And that this magic, we want this magic that we get to experience with one another and have the privilege to do that in such an intimate way to transcend our relationship and touch the lives of so many people and women in midlife where things feel so messy and sometimes so hopeless, and to get to experience something different that can maybe open possibilities.
Well, it's like the safety of it. Like we said that word before, but it's like the safety of being who you are with people that not only don't judge you for it, but actually love that about you. Like we were talking about that, right? Like, what are the things, what are our, like each of our quirks that like, and they don't really drive us crazy about each other, but like we appreciate because it's feeling safe enough to not worry, right? Like it's being able to just be who you are. And again, it's not like the fear of judgment. It's like the beauty of the acceptance. Like, it's not like, oh, you don't judge me for it. It's like, well, you actually love that about me, right? And it's like, I actually love that about you. Like, I don't know. I just like that to me is what friendships are built upon,
Absolutely.
right?
The really good ones. for
Yeah,
sure.
it's how I feel with my sisters, right?
Mhm.
As like kooky as we all are, it's like what we really love about each other, right? It's what makes us like so unique, but also so supportive of each other
Mhm.
because we all have a different thing and we all have a different way of doing it.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting too because it's something that I feel like obviously vulnerability evolves over time and it takes time. And so we both have ADHD. That's where I was going. That sometimes with ADHD you can be an oversharer,
Yes.
like have vulnerability a little too early and at inappropriate times. And so like there's the like finding the right ground for that. And like we have a tendency in life as humans to like overcorrect. And so we go from like oversharing to like, oh, nope, gotta pull back. And then like you're too guarded. And at least I do. I'm working on like getting into a better place with that, but also recognizing that things like change and evolve over time. So I like where we had lunch was right next to the place that Aliza and I had lunch the first time when we first met. And I remember feeling so self-conscious in that space. And I don't know, did you? This is like, we've never actually talked about this. This is like, yeah, we've never talked about like how we felt about our first meeting.
That was almost 10 years ago.
It was almost 10 years ago. And I was so self-conscious because I was a solo practitioner, like was relatively new to San Diego. And I'd heard about you because you had this like massive, like, one of the most successful practices in the county and all this stuff. I had heard of you and then you reached out to me because of how I was involved with our state association. And so I was sitting there, I was like, oh my gosh, here's this like person who is freaking gorgeous and like looks flawless no matter what we already talked about this. We won't go there again. But just
I mean,
sitting,
it's fine.
just sitting across from me at lunch. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so successful and she's so pretty and she's all these things. And I'm like, just this, like, I'm just nobody who happens to have volunteered her time for this association. And I'm like, what is she thinking of me this whole time?
I love how but see, okay, hold on real quick. I just volunteer my time. You were the president of the state association. You didn't just volunteer your time. Don't minimize what you do. Sorry. Side note, don't minimize your greatness.
Let's pause here for a moment. I mean,
Just
it's
in
important
general.
what you're saying.
Just
is
in
important.
general. I think we have the tendency to do that. Let's just not minimize.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will practice.
I wouldn't have been meeting you if you weren't the president. Right? That's why
He doesn't hang out with non-important people. AIPs only.
I was so nervous because of that, right?
Yeah.
Like there's this person who knows so much, is so involved, is so well respected.
Yeah.
In a different way, right?
Right. We had a knowledge imbalance too.
Yeah.
We both had something that the other felt slightly deficient in that we wanted to be better in. And we didn't know each other or trust each other well enough to have that good exchange. But it's hard for me to be vulnerable and to acknowledge that I am good at something or that I've done something or whatever. Like that's a weirdly hard thing to do. It's like you need to be perfect, but then if somebody calls you out for doing a good job, then that also feels vulnerable in a really challenging way, which is like, what the heck is wrong with us that like nothing feels good enough, right?
Right.
Speaking of us meeting too is also, I think, at least for me, like as nervous as I felt going into it, within 20 or 30 minutes, I was like, oh yeah, cool, great.
Yeah.
Like I felt totally
It took me a little bit longer.
Totally comfortable with you.
It took me a little bit longer, but we got there pretty quickly and it evolved over time. So like this whole conversation, right, that we had at lunch, Lisa like accepted it immediately. She's like, yeah, I know. She's got my back. I've had hers. I'm going to have hers again. And this is just going to be a back and forth. And she's just like, great. Thank you so much. You and I have known each other longer. You and Eliza are still getting to know each other because, we've known each other for like 5 years now, but it's been in like a virtual setting, right? And even though we've known each other for a while and we've shared so many like deep, really personal conversations, we still have this other part of vulnerability that we're having to navigate. That it's just so interesting, some of the things that you shared with us as we were having conversations leading up to this to decide, are we okay? Because doing this whole thing means we have to be vulnerable. We have to be willing to talk about what we feel, what we're experiencing in our life, what's going on as our foundation for the conversations that we're having to help ourselves and to help anybody who happens to join us. And you've like, oh my gosh, some of the stuff you shared, but then to be like, yes, you can pay for my lunch. Like, big. But I mean, that's the point is like, sometimes it hits us in places that we don't necessarily know.
You did a good job, boo.
You did.
Thank you.
Yeah. It is about like opening up and accepting. And the only reason I got there quicker was because, like I told you guys, I've watched that dynamic within my family my whole almost 47 years, right? And when you're outside of it, you're sitting there like, oh my God, like, will somebody just shut up? Well, no, I would watch this. It was always my dad and my uncle. And it was, no, no, you're
Oh,
not.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
and it was like going on and on and on. It's like, is this really important? Like, just somebody said,
Clearly.
thank you.
Yeah.
And again,
No,
like
it's
we say, like, it all comes out in the wash. It's not the only meal we're ever going to have together. So I think that for me was why I was able to do that, because it was something that I had experienced for so many years. But I think it's hard. The bigger lesson is it's hard to accept,
and it's
right?
hard
It's
to
hard to accept things from people,
it's hard
right?
to allow yourself to be seen that deeply. And isn't that so ironic? Because what I want in that circumstance, and I think generally, is for the world to understand that I am here to do my part. I am here to contribute. I am here to work. I am here to do good, to do something worthwhile, meaningful, whatever. And yet, when people who are really special and wonderful are saying, "We get it.
Yeah.
It's fine." No, you don't get it, right? And so it's so interesting because even though your uncle and your dad, you said,
Yeah.
even though they very well may have seen each other, because, and back to what you said in the previous episode, I wonder how much I can receive.
Yeah.
And allowing someone to see you, not that part, but when you are seen, the feeling, receiving what it is like to be seen is not something that is just in someone else's it's actually not in someone else's hands. It is in our own. I had to allow it because you already knew that. I had to allow myself not just to be seen because that was already happening. And this is so important because I see this in my sessions with people frequently where no one sees me. I hear that so frequently. And to understand now at this depth, right, to have had that experience with both of you over lunch, that it is, and it's not always, right? I mean, we are blessed to have each other for sure. It is a very special relationship. And how often have I or other people not been seen? Not because it's like if a tree falls in the middle of a forest and no one hears it or sees it, did it happen, right? It's happening around us all of the time. But if we are not
And
curious
present.
about, yes, about how much can I receive and open the doors to that, then the feeling, connecting that being seen to our hearts doesn't happen. It just blocks and stops.
Sometimes it's the reverse though too, right? Sometimes it is I am seen too much and there are too many
Yeah.
eyes on me. And so I cannot let these things be seen. It's
Yeah, that's somewhere in the messy middle for sure.
yeah.
I think that may be another episode when that happens for us and we talk about it. And I want to circle back to Brene Brown's quote of how vulnerability is not a weakness. And it is so central, which is why we decided to come back here and come back and talk about this. That is a profoundly damaging belief. Myth is what she calls it. That vulnerability is a weakness. And I think at this stage of life, it is always a weakness and it is always destructive. And at this stage of life, we are at the point where it is non-negotiable. If we don't step into the vulnerability, we break.
Yeah.
The stakes are high.
Well, there's so much that is
Yeah.
connected to shame.
Yeah.
And it was only in the last 5 months that I finally had that personal realization. Like I've heard about it, I've read it intellectually, like all these things. I can see it in other people, but then I was like, I had a moment and I was like, I'm not feeling good. What is going on? And I was like, God, that's shame.
Yeah.
Oh, that's shame. And then I felt shame about the fact that I had shame.
Or like, I don't want to say we're conditioned to feel that way, but I think in a way that we are, right? I mean, we're conditioned by life circumstances and gender
It's a
roles
social tool.
and right,
It's
like
absolutely a
there is
social
a
tool.
part of that like, again, you don't realize it when you're in it, right? Like for me, when we were talking before about what other people think, our family, a stranger, whatever, that's really what it came down to, is being ashamed.
Yeah.
Right? that was the feeling that I always was worried about or tried to avoid, was feeling ashamed, right? Like, I even remember, like, as a kid, sitting in a classroom and someone would say the word fat. I would immediately recoil and get, like, nervous and feel really, like, ashamed, you know? So I think it's something that's just it's been going on for so long for a lot of people.
You can't even recognize it.
No, and then I think that's the beauty of this is the beauty of having no Fs left to give, is that you start to break free from that. There's this quote that I read, God, it was in a book years ago, and it said, "At some point in her life, a woman becomes tired of being ashamed all the time, and at that point, she's truly free to be who she is." And I feel like that's the point that we have all gotten to. We're still navigating it a little bit, but, like, I wanna feel proud of who I am. Like, I am proud of who I am, right? And so I want what I feel about myself to be enough, that I don't need other people to feel that way about me for me to feel good about myself.
At the risk of going on to another thing, there's another episode, and maybe we just need to recognize that and stop the conversation there. But in that transition from where you reached the point that your Fs are gone, and was December 21st last year. That's the day. But when you reach that point, there's still a whole lot of stuff you got to clean up because
Absolutely.
then
Yes, that's
because
the vulnerability.
right
That's
because
the
you
transition into the vulnerability.
because it's going to mean you're going to have to start saying no to other people, to yourself, to people you care about. Like, no has to become an important word and a complete sentence,
Yeah.
right? And the ways that, like, they still, like, the vulnerability and combating shame and the acceptance of who you really are and what you actually want and what is best for you and your family moving forward is so still intermingled. Like,
Of course, yeah.
it's all so together, and, like, it can be really hard to figure out sometimes. It can be really hard to say, is this the feeling that I'm having, is this because I'm going against myself, or is it because I'm having a hard time saying yes to myself?
But it's a whole evolution, right? Like, yes, there was that day, right? And that's when it starts, but it's ongoing. Like, I feel that way every day for me. Like, there's some type of situation where I do have to stand up for who I am and what I want, right? It's not like the light switch flipped. It's not like that. It's like it might have flipped in a way of, oh, this is what I want, but then there's still all the unraveling.
The clarity
Yeah,
that you get is different than the action it takes to become
absolutely.
fully aligned with
Yeah, like,
clarity.
that's what I was saying, the unraveling of all of these years of these limiting beliefs and these ways of being.
Oh my gosh, it's like all these necklaces, like, tied up and tangled together that
And you're, like,
could be like
slowly with a couple tweezers, like, pulling it
Mhm.
apart. Yeah, and it takes time.
and you're doing it kind of blindly sometimes too,
Yeah.
because you're, like, not sure, is this the thing that's gonna make it worse or is it gonna make it
And
better?
that's the vulnerability, right? Like the courage that it takes to unravel the
I was gonna
necklace.
say that's the excitement.
And it
It
is. It
is, like,
is.
that feeling of, like, I don't have to do this anymore,
Yeah.
right? It's like a freedom, and I
Yeah.
guess that's where the excitement comes from. It's
Yes.
like, I can breathe. I'm not stuck in this way of being that didn't feel good to me.
And
Lisa, I have an email that I have to send that I just got a good reframe. Thank you so much. Now I can be excited to say no instead of feeling guilty for saying no.
Yeah.
yeah. And understanding that it's not just a moment in time. There are moments of excitement and there's a lot of moments of, my gosh,
Yeah.
what is this? I have no footing. I feel like I am totally, at the mercy of the unknown. It can, yes. And so it's this back and forth. And that's what the messy middle is. And that's where magic happens. That's where the transformation happens. And that is why this episode was so important, because vulnerability is not a weakness. It is an absolute foundation. It's a necessary foundation to unlock the next chapter.
And vulnerability, like, getting to the place where you cross that threshold and you're willing to be more vulnerable doesn't mean that it's just suddenly going to be easy peasy.
Yeah.
It's not easy peasy. That's exactly
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah.
That's exactly the point. Yeah. And, you know, we're all familiar with Brene Brown. And there is a difference between the research, which is fantastic and so necessary. And it opened the, you know, the conversation and what we want to do, which is say, this is what it looks like. And it is okay. We feel we feel intensely and it can be scary or it can be really uncomfortable. And look at what can happen on the other side.
I'm just hoping someday it's just all going to feel easy peasy. But I think that's going to be the day that I'm like in a wheelchair that's bedazzled and like I've got, you know, all sorts of flags and playing my 2000s dance party mix.
So it gets it does get easier
It does get
it's
easier.
gotten easier
Just
for
change.
me.
It
Just
changes.
yeah, I mean, I think there are always the ups and downs, right? There's always the positive and the negative, anything. But I think that's the goal is for never it to be what we would say was like, is
Yeah.
it perfect? But it's like moving towards that.
Mm.
And I think just like acknowledging that and like feeling happy about that and grateful about that when we're noticing that we're taking those steps to
Mhm.
like honor ourselves and to be true to who we are. It's like,
Mhm.
I think that's important for women to like give yourselves a pat on the back when you do that because it's breaking so many years of limiting beliefs and rote reactions, right? That we
Mhm.
don't even realize that we're doing.
That are
So,
deeply ingrained in our DNA. We talked about that, the generational piece and the
Yeah.
epigenetics and how these traumatic experiences are inherited. And it's not just about our reactive response to something, right? Like our reaction to a trigger or a prompt in our lives. It's actually generations and generations and generations. And so I think that really helps to validate why this is so difficult. This isn't just our story, it's many, many generations, and changing it has that powerful of a transcendent effect as well moving forward.
Okay. Well, I'm out.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if I have to, no, I'm kidding. I will figure this out as we go through and
that's what we're all doing together.
right.
I thought you were saying like mic drop because I feel
No,
like that was a good.
I mean, it was a mic drop, but it was also like, are we really ready to tackle this? I mean, we
Yeah.
are, and we know we are.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're
That's what we
tackling
signed
this
up
in
for.
terms of sitting in front of a camera doing it, but we all tackle this every day in our lives. And that's what we've been doing. And
Yeah.
that's why we have these conversations amongst ourselves and not in front of an audience because this is what we've been doing.
And what I love about us doing this is, you know, we have conversations with our patients. You were mentioning that earlier, where we're supporting people going through very vulnerable things. And for the world and them, because I know patients are very excited about this particular project, to see how this is every human's experience.
Yeah.
It does not
Yeah.
matter how long you've been working on it, what your profession is. This is everybody's experience. And it's so valuable for how normalizing it
Yeah.
is.
You're
And
not
there's,
alone in it.
you're not alone. And it, I think, is very empowering to know that it's a human thing. Again, I think it's, you know, that helps to manage the shame, right? Because with shame, it's like there's something wrong with me.
Right.
No, we
Right.
are all in this boat.
Right. What is it that Brene always says that like shame is to think that you are bad versus that you are doing something bad or having
Guilt,
experienced something bad.
guilt
Right.
versus
Guilt.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we are here to help
Ourselves, honestly.
Yes,
Ourselves.
yes, help ourselves and within ourselves manage that shame that we all carry in hopes of
Yeah.
And not putting that, this is another topic too, but not putting that on the people around us, not putting that on our kids, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a bad kid. I have a good kid
That's making
having a
bad-
bad time.
right.
Right.
Making a bad choice.
Mhm.
Hmm. By the
Mhm.
way, the cute, lovable quirk about Eliza that she brought up earlier is that she thinks everybody knows everybody. So she'll just tell you a story and just use names like you know who these people are. And
No context.
with absolutely no context. No, she's just like, yeah, Jonathan over here did this and this. And we're like, wait, who is Jonathan? And like, she's like, and like, you have to stop her and ask her because she just assumes everybody knows everybody. I think it's
And I
lovely and
think
adorable.
they all do.
My quirk that my husband both loves and hates is that as I am getting into bed, any random question that comes to mind, that's when it comes out. And it's like, and it's not necessarily something important. It's like, what would be the scariest thing that could walk through our door right now? You know, or like a very good friend of mine that I've known for over 20 years. We went to go see a play up in Los Angeles a couple weekends ago. And I was like, this is how I know that you are one of my best friends and that you know me is we were back from the night, brushing our teeth. And as I'm just like, what do you think would be the worst thing about being Amish? And no beats missed. She answered me. She's like, I think it would be not being able to be. Like, it's like she was thinking about this for 20 years and was like, thank God somebody finally asked me what would be the worst thing about being Amish. And so that's one of my like quirks that you guys will get to know more of. I think you know this because you've had enough overnights with me in like hotel rooms and stuff. Yeah.
Mine, my husband would say, and I know this, being a highly sensitive person, my startle response is maxed out, like highest volume possible. And whenever I trip, which makes hiking very difficult for me, my arms just go whoop. They go straight up into the air, and my husband thinks it's hilarious.
You're the opposite of like,
exactly. That is exactly what he says. He's like, that is so cute and totally ineffective. And I'm like, I cannot help it. And I think that it is representative of the intensity of who I am. And I am unapologetically, whether I choose to or not, it just is who I am. And it comes with the whole package. Totally ridiculous, ineffective expressions, as well as profoundly meaningful and beneficial ones as well.
Just tell them you're part aardvark. That's how they like scare. That's how when they're startled. That's how they scare predators. They like stand up.
Maybe that's what it is. Now I'll have to look into that.
Well, let's keep supporting each other and being unapologetically ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Weird quirks and all.
Yes.
All right. Vulnerability. That's what you're getting.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Take care,
See you
guys.
next time.
If our messy is your kind of messy, we'd love for you to rate, review, and follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
We'd also love to know what's on your mind. If you were to join us, what would we be talking about? Email us at messymidlifepodcast@gmail.com or message us on Instagram or TikTok.